学園3年 B 組の皆さん、こんにちは。
Good morning. Today we are here with Charles, Irreplaceable Charles, and let me just go ahead and say that I wasn't actually trying to compete with Millennial, but here we are. This is somewhat embarrassing, but this was the window that Charles had, and I thought it would be best to work with his schedule. So this is just where we are. We're gonna chit chat, and no one can stop us. So there you go. Anyhow, we're gonna loop in Charles now. All right, big bad Charles, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay.
Oh boy. Okay, so your voice is a little low.
Is that better?
Just a touch, yeah. So basically I'm gonna have to basically hug the mic, like actually put the mic in your mouth if you can. Okay, all right, that's good. I can hear you, and I'm sure that everyone else can hear you now, so you're doing great. Anyway, so I wanted to ask you a couple of things about Virginia, but you seem to be a little bit more keyed up about this concept. Well, it's not really my concept. We're all doing our own things, and you have things that you're doing, I have things that I'm doing, but there seems to be a little bit of overlap. And the concept that I had in my mind was what I'm in my head calling Operation White Noise, and you had something that you're doing very similar, and you were saying that you've had mixed results, and you were just talking about how your stratagem has been to go basically super aggressive. So I guess this is a good time to just let you fly from there. What were you saying with that?
Yeah, basically, a lot of normies are like, it's kind of mind blowing the degree to which they are like completely clueless and have no idea what's going on politically. Because they barely watch any news at all. Much less go deep diving into like articles and stuff like we do. So when you try and talk to them about demographics and how the like demographic replacement of American people is causing the degeneration of our constitutional rights, namely the Second Amendment, like in Virginia, they simply don't believe it, and like they'll just deny what you're saying, and it's a very frustrating experience. And the only response that I've found that has really any level of effectiveness, it still isn't very effective, because you come across as kind of an aggressive dick, and they just don't want to give you the satisfaction of being right. But they can't, like, when you the strategy that I'm referring to is basically to have all of the articles from like the New York Times and these various other like mainstream publications that normies will accept, when just bring them up and just show them, look, this is the Democrats on a Democrat platform talking about how their strategy of replacing us demographically is working for them. So like you can't deny this.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so this is where you and I are differing in thought patterns. So, what it sounds like is that you want them to agree with you, or you want them to acknowledge what you're saying. And there is something to that, in all honesty. I think that's laudable conceptually. The only problem with that is exactly what you were saying. It does come across as hyper-aggressive. And this is where Operation White Noise differs, because my concept is that you don't inject it politically, firstly, and secondly, you offer, you basically just say the word demographics, and that's it. And the idea is that, because you want people to, like, switch on. I'm with you on that, by the way.
Yeah, like basically I just, I'm not necessarily trying to get them to agree with any of my solutions, just trying to get them to acknowledge that it is a problem.
Yes, and I'm starting to think that this is going to be a much more long-term issue. What I mean by that is, in some weird way, we kind of do have all the time in the world. I mean, not really, but hear me out. This situation is going to be going on for the next rest of our lives. It's not going away. This is going to be the main issue for the next, 2 centuries, probably. It's going to be a major fucking issue. Like Iberian Peninsula circa 1430. That's where we are right now. So, the way that I'm looking at this is going to bubble up. This is going to be a major issue. And I think, because think about all those times when you thought you had a thought that was totally original, and then you realized that you somehow jacked it from somebody else, and you heard about it like years previous or something. So the way that I'm thinking about this right now is, with Operation White Noise, simply inject the concept of demographics, and step by step, rather not step by step, like person by person, it will start to get into their consciousness. And you don't do this with like one person alone over the course of like a day. You do this with like a couple of conversations with multiple people, just generally.
Okay, so like essentially just trying to meme the word demographics and like the concept of it,
Exactly.
like not presenting it as a positive or a negative, just whenever the opportunity presents itself.
Yes.
Okay.
Because then, at some point, there will be a dividend. There's going to be a point at which people will start to realize that this is in fact serious. Once they do, they'll start asking you questions. This happened with 9/11. I went through my big 9/11 phase back in like 2010 or whatever, and at the time, like, it was just in the air for some reason. You know, there are all those documentaries. I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember, but God, what
Oh yeah,
was?
like uh oh man, I had it and then I lost it. The
Yeah,
one really famous YouTube documentary
yeah,
that
yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, even though we can't
yeah.
think of the documentary. But it doesn't matter. The thing is that I spent a lot of time thinking about that and going over it in my head. I even came up with a funny phrase on how to make fun of the official 9/11 narrative. And the phrase that I came up with was plane go in, building come down. Because that sounds very infantile, and that's basically the official narrative. Plane go in, building come down. It's the stupidest fucking narrative ever, but that's what's taught. Anyway.
Yeah. Do you know about the I think it was the Chrysler building?
Yes, yes. And they designed the Twin Towers to withstand something greater than that. And in fact, the impact from the planes that hit the Twin Towers were well within what it was designed to absorb rather.
But anyway, like we could speaking of conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah.
I was talking to you about how the Washington Free Beacon has published confirmation that the Chinese government has been publishing propaganda in the New York Times and the Washington Post.
That's gonna be huge. It's gonna be
Yeah,
amazing. I don't know how to spin that yet, but
yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's probably just going to be glossed over because no one's paying attention to anything except for the impeachment.
yeah, pretty
And
much.
considering all of the stuff that's been happening in Virginia and also the stuff that happened in New York and New Jersey past couple nights where it's like now illegal immigrants can now acquire driver's licenses in New York and New Jersey. I'm kind of wondering if maybe the Democrats started this dumpster fire of impeachment specifically to draw attention away from these things.
Yeah, I actually think you're correct. In all honesty, it sounds insane to say it out loud, but I'm starting to think there might be something to that.
Because like people are really underestimating the severity of the situation. The local sheriff departments are siding with the militias in Virginia.
Yeah.
Like that's a big deal.
Oh, I know. Okay, but the coming back to the whole thing of seeding things out and people coming to you over time, I've experienced that back in 2010 plus minus. I was in situations where people would say, "Okay, I've heard about this whole. Did you hear about World Trade Center 7? Have you ever heard of that?" You know, and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, God, you fucking autistic freak. Not only do you could spend like an hour talking about it, and I would, which is not good, but anyway. Yeah,
I know what you mean. Sometimes just a well-placed question.
yeah. So I think that this is going to. I think that this stratagem will probably pay dividends later. I don't think it's going to do much in the short term. So I think it'll feel like a slog for probably a year or two. But right now, like I'm basically just going to like boomer tier gun channels and prepper channels, and like every time I think about it, I go into the YouTube comment section and I talk about how non-whites vote Democrat 80% of the time. I make it short, I make it concise, I offer no positive or negative qualitative assignments.
Just quick, brief statement of fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are effective. And what's really like kind of crazy to me is the way that his Central American culture is very Catholic. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so like that's why the conservative Inc. crowd is just like, oh well, many of these immigrants are natural conservatives, like they hold good family Christian values and all this other stuff. So like we just need to persuade them to vote Republican. It's like, guys, think about what you're saying. You're saying that there's no reason for them to not vote Republican, like except that the Dems are the ones offering the expanses to free Gibbs and opening borders to let more of them in. So like the people aren't voting along like their morals, they're voting along their economics, and they're voting in their like tribal interests, not their religious or moral value interests. And
yeah,
so you're not gonna persuade them to come over to your side. That's not how it works. That's not how tribalism works. Tribalism isn't about persuasion.
yeah. I got into a little tiny Twitter spat with a conservative over that like half an hour ago. And I mean, like, they got defensive too. They got really defensive, and they were like, no, you need to check out the walk away campaign. I was like, okay, buddy.
I mean, in fairness, the like black people walked away from the Republican Party, not like a few decades ago, because they used to all vote Democrat, or they used to all vote Republican, but now they all vote Democrat. So in theory, it's possible, but I don't really see it happening. I mean, maybe, but I feel like I feel like that's like a Hail Mary pass. You know what I mean?
I would say it's not. Yeah, the qualifier of I feel like it's not. There's no qualifier. It is a Hail Mary pass.
Yeah, it's just like a last desperate. Oh no, there's not enough white people to vote Republican anymore. Like Texas is gonna turn blue in 2024, and we're just screwed. So we're just gonna throw the ball and hope to God that the black dude catches it, because if he doesn't, it's over.
Well, that's why I'm trying to beam it now, and I'm thinking about just going directly into conservative ink circles, because I don't really care about when a ship is sinking. Find people that want a lifeboat. Don't seek people that think everything is fine. Seek people that know what's going on and want to find a lifeboat. So the people that are closer to what we want will be Republicans that kinda get the game. Kinda. Like they're on the cusp. That's what we want. So that's why I'm trying to focus a little bit more on. And a lot of people, like, I used to be a Democrat. I still count myself as a latent liberal, for better or worse. So there are and there's this one guy that I know. I haven't talked to him in like months. I should talk to him. He's actually a pretty nice guy. He's like a Bernie bro, and shockingly he said, I'm really glad that somebody is talking about white people, even if it's Richard Spencer. So we're talking about like a freaking Bernie bro that is aware that there's something going on with regards to attacking white people.
Oh yeah, man.
There are inroads, is what I'm saying.
There are inroads, and there's a surprising number of people. See, it's like there are a lot of things that Democrats talk about that I feel like I think are good ideas. I think they're goals for how to achieve. I think that they've got some good goals. All right, uh, but their plans for achieving them I may not necessarily agree with. Like, I agree that healthcare needs to be more accessible for American citizens. I completely agree with that sentiment. Uh, and but because of this demographics thing, because of demographics are high on my voter priorities, that pushes me over into the Republicans, and so healthcare kind of becomes a secondary thing because I recognize that the demographics thing is affecting the healthcare thing. But put a pin in that. The point is, there are people who demographics is an issue in their view. It's something they've got their eye on, but it's like behind all of these other issues that they think are more important.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
when you run into someone like that, you just need to show them how like all of the other things are affected by this. So this needs to be solved. Like we need to deal with this in order to fix these other things. Because you're never going to be able to create an affordable healthcare system if millions of people a year come into the country in order to exploit that system. Well, maybe not in order to exploit that system, but they come in and they do increase the costs and making it affordable just impossible.
Yeah, well, but this is why I think because my stratagem for dealing with the gun enthusiast boomer crowd is to link it to their gun rights. And it's a little more abstract because what you're talking about with the healthcare thing, like you can link demographics to healthcare and show how mass immigration is going to tank everything sooner or later. That's a little bit harder of a sell for a progressive, but the gun thing is much easier to sell for a firearms enthusiast.
Yeah, and there's a New York Times article that I'm looking up to send to you. Let's see, NY Times, where they basically like explicitly and specifically explain that demographics turned Virginia blue, and that's why all this is happening.
Nice. New York Times, no less.
Yeah, and they're like you can read it in the article that they're kind of like trying not to brag. You know what I mean?
I know the exact tone you're talking about, where they're being condescending and they're like, yes, we're winning, and they're trying not to feel too good about it openly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's the problem with a problem that I've run into with talking about polling data. Like you show people the polling data where it's divided up by race, and you see that like white people are the only people who as a majority support the first two amendments.
Yeah.
I've run into a very interesting rhetorical problem with that. People don't believe polls anymore.
Oh yeah. I've been in that situation too, where a person is like, did you know that Elizabeth Warren is beating out Joe Biden? And I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, I don't even know if that's true. I have no idea. Like, who did you ask? Did you ask Democrats? Did you ask progressives?
And so it's like, oh, well, as useful as this piece of data is for my argument, I can't use it. because like I can't deny the validity of having absolutely no faith in any poll you see at this point.
Yeah, they've
So,
put themselves into kind of a weird bind.
so yeah, so like you can't use the polling data. So now like we just have to point to Virginia and scream, "Look! Look at it."
Yeah. Well, okay, so my stratagem at the moment actually is to basically I'm calling it guerrilla rhetoric at the moment. And the concept is that because coming back to Operation White Noise, my concept is that you simply drop the word into a conversation and then get the fuck off the topic immediately. I mean, for us, it's like puppy in a sock, because we love to think about it. We love to talk about it, especially amongst each other. But just as you're saying, the average person, like, they don't have any clue about, like, when they read this New York Times article, they're like, yeah, well, it's what happened, man. Demographics are changing, and like, but they can't link anything together. But if we can get them to just see it like enough times, oh, that's right. There's another issue with that, and I want to hear bookmark what you're about to say. There's another thing that I was thinking about, and this relates to the lifeboat thing. And Jonathan Pohl, one of the guys that I'll be speaking with later on tonight, he's a regular. Anyway, he's a good guy. He was saying that the mean IQ for whites is between 98 and 102, and the implication is that you can get a horse to water, but it's still a goddamn horse. So we can talk about some of these big brain nibba things, but at the same time, like, a fair amount of the population is just not gonna get it. And this is why I like the idea of seeding it in general, memeing it as a larger pattern, because if it becomes a part of the background chatter, the high agency people will catch on. We can't find them. Okay, if you want to find people that want to find a lifeboat, that means you have to give a freaking IQ test and a personality test to like everyone in your city, and then figure out which ones are most likely to understand what you're saying and want to do something about it. That's a tall freaking order. I would say it's impossible. But if we can seed the concept out, just in general, then it's going to sprout in the kinds of people that we want. So this is why just meme it.
This is like a conversational version of the landmine thing.
A little bit, yeah.
Where it's like we're trying to basically get them to self-initiate by repeatedly memeing this idea with degrees of vagueness to the point that they feel compelled, the motivated people anyway, feel compelled to look it up.
Yes, and there's this concept in, I think it's the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, which is a silly book, but for a neophyte who is just trying to figure out how to like acquire power and maintain power. It's not a bad book.
Yeah, I listened to it. Well, I struggled to listen to the book on tape on YouTube.
Yeah, it took me about a month to get through. I just read like one or two of the rules a day, if that. Usually like one a day, and just left it at that. It wasn't a big deal. So yeah, it took me about a month to get through or something. It's not exactly a page turner, but some of the concepts were really cool. One of them was leave them wanting more. Don't give them everything they want. Give them most of what they want.
Yeah, no, that's a good thought.
Yeah. So if you talk about things like the demographics issue, because I mean, when you think about it, like, we are pattern-seeking machines. We want to see patterns. So if you give a person most of a pattern, they're going to be like, well, fill it in. I want to see the rest. Just be like, no.
Yeah, you fill it in.
Yeah, and they're going to want to. I mean, you don't...
Oh, and
yeah.
I think that Tim Pool basically spelling out our entire thing in so many words. Like he obviously like danced around it, but I feel like he's a fairly kind of normie-esque figure. Like I've
Yeah.
run into people who know him that are not like initiated into this stuff at all.
Yeah.
And being able to refer to him, like he's a good source for us to use. Because if we tell people, like when I tell people go check out, the public space with JF, or go check out Red Ice TV or something like that, they're not gonna do that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, because I've got such mixed feelings about that. Like that's its own big thing. Like we do need media, but at the same time, like, oh my god, yeah, I can tell a neophyte about Red Ice Radio. I can tell a neophyte about Amren. I cannot tell anyone else. The uninitiated, they'll look at it and they'll be like, oh my god, you guys are literally Hitler. And you're like, well, dude, just, look up some information, But
it's really frustrating, but
yeah.
you have to use their own words.
Yeah.
It sucks because their words are just so much rhetorical nonsense.
Yeah.
And meaningless distinctions are created for like no reason other than confusion.
Yeah.
But
so this is why I'm going for just get the idea in, leave it alone, get the hell out. Guerrilla rhetoric. That's how you get the concept in there, That's what I'm doing, and so with the gun one, it's very easy because I just have to say to hey Blitz, how's it going? I just have to say to a gun enthusiast that 80% of non-whites vote Democrat, and they will very, very quickly understand that their ability to keep and bear arms will be under threat very easily. It's very easy to get those guys. But I feel like I've got to work on one to get to others. There's a guy in the chat, EV, was saying earlier that, and so is Tom Anderson, they're both saying that they found a lot of fertile ground. No, Evie was mentioning that Spencer said that there's fertile ground in the Bernie Bros, which I thought was an interesting idea, and Tom Anderson was seconding that. And I wonder to myself, because I want to have talking points that I can get out to those guys. Let's see here. Yeah, Evie says, Spencer always said that Bernie Bros were fertile soil. I tend to lean in Bernie's direction myself, all other things aside. And Tom Anderson says, yeah, leftists are always easier to bring over. See, that's funny because I am a former Democrat, and that kind of suggests that there's some truth to that.
Yeah, same here. I was an anarchist.
Yeah. Very, very curious. Very curious. I feel like that we're going to have the chat. You can't see the chat, but it's really funny. There's, for some reason, the sunglasses emoji is really popular as of this moment. It's really weird looking. It's funny. Anyway, I feel like there should be like standardized, like boilerplate talking point whatevers that you can just throw out. And that's one of the reasons why I came up with that whole thing of 80% of non-whites vote Democrat. I've got an entire rigmarole that I use for YouTube comments, and it works great. It works really, really great. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from those comments. Like, people comment on my comments. They reply to my comments, rather. So it's really good. I think we need to do that just in general. I think that we should have templates. That's what I'm thinking of. I think we should have templates. And I think that if we had like templates that we could just throw in, deliver quickly, easily, get the hell out of there, and get back to talking about cookies and ice cream or whatever the conversation was about. The best way to water your lawns so that you're going to not overwater it or underwater it, but you're also going to get enough in there so you can get some good roses, this sort of conversation. I think that if you could just find a way to just deliver your idea, get the hell out, I think that'd be the ideal thing. So I think that's going to be my next big thing, to think about, like templates for things to say. Gun rights is easy. We're gonna have to.
I just thought of something.
What's
I'm
that?
gonna have to do a little bit of homework on it.
Yeah.
But I saw a chart that somebody made out of tax data from IRS.gov, and it was showing that white people are like 63% of the population, but pay about 80 to 85% of the taxes. I can't remember exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes.
So whenever the subject of like, subsidized healthcare or single payer healthcare, or anyone starts talking about anything like that, you can throw that out there. Just be like, hey, the demographic displacement is causing a loss of tax revenue.
That's a really okay. You know what? I like this. I don't know about you, but let's see. Hold on. Yeah, I like this direction. Because as long as you can make the idea concise and clean, you're good. Like,
and whenever the Bernie Bros are talking about the workers, you can talk about how, hey, like, demographic changes are offsetting the cost of labor because it's causing an influx of cheaper labor that's competing with the local population. Use the word local when talking to Bernie Bros as much as you can.
Oh yeah. Mass immigration pushes local wages down. Yeah.
Yeah, and then trying to artificially increase them with minimum wage increase, that just hurts small businesses. Yeah, the big mega corporations like McDonald's can afford to pay $15 an hour, but Mom's Deli down the street, that can't pay $15 an hour.
Yeah. Mom's Deli, which is owned by Deb, and then you have to somehow find a way to call Deb a fat cat. Yeah, actually, there was another thing. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I still, like, I'm 80% of the way there. I might get as close as 90, maybe 95% of the way there. But I want to have like a quick, clean thing that I can use to describe the Virginia situation so that people can understand why it's so upsetting. And the thing that I came up with is that Democrats are declaring a sanctuary city for criminals, and they're saying that people who want to exercise their civil liberties don't get to have sanctuary cities. Does that, like, do you see what I'm saying there? Like, I'm trying to get this. I want. That's not.
Yeah, that's why that's why the counties decided to use the verbiage of a sanctuary.
Yeah, but I want to find a way, because when I said it just now, that doesn't have zing. It doesn't have pop to it. I want to have, like, ideally, I want a single sentence that I can deliver to a person that is like subject, predicate, boom, done. I want like a circa 2007 high impact meme for it. That's what I want. So I'm still working on that. But
They want to declare sanctuary for illegal immigrants. While
sanctuary for
denying
criminals, but not for civil liberties.
sanctuary for criminals, but not for civil liberties, or they want protections for illegal immigrants. Oh well, hang on. The way to phrase working the word rights in there is good, because like the right to defend yourself, the right to arm yourself for the sake of your own defense, that's a fundamental right of not just humans but like animals. Like even a lion has a right to its claws.
Oh, here we go. For the Bill of Rights. Sanctuary for criminals, but not for the Bill of Rights. Okay, so for the moment, that's the one that I'm going to use. For the moment. Everything is subject to change. I might find a better phrasing later, but that's where I'm going to leave that one for the moment. Democrats want sanctuaries for criminals, but not for the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's like bumper sticker material.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I'm going to phrase it. Because before, it was sanctuaries for me, but not for thee. Which is funny, but it doesn't have the same sting as sanctuary for criminals, but not for the Bill of Rights.
Right, it doesn't have that sting because it's funny.
Yeah.
And see, that's something that, like, in 2016, the meme war was won because of humor. But the Joker movie coming out was very appropriately timed, because I feel like that was the thing that really woke people up to the fact that this is not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening, like, it was funny, but now, like, we're moving out of the laughing at it phase and it just hurting phase. It's like, you know how, like, when you, like, maybe you'll, like, sprain your ankle or something, you'll get, like, really hurt, and then you'll, like, laugh about it for a minute because, like, I don't know, that's just how you respond to pain. And then, like, you stop laughing and it just hurts.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I've known, I know a couple of basically normies that loved the Joker movie, like they got it. It's a real zeitgeist movie, I will admit that. I do have my issues with it, but
Obviously, as with anything that comes out of Hollywood,
yeah.
a sane person will take issue with. But
yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I miss the mirth, I miss the glee of 2016. There's a real optimism back in 2016 that I loved. It was great. Get on the train, baby. This baby has no brakes. I miss those.
yeah, because, like, debunking the wage gap and talking about, like, how people think there are 72 genders. Yeah, that was funny. Sheriff's departments siding with local militias to defy tyrannical laws imposed by a state that was brought about because the local voting population was replaced by a foreign population from other countries. That's not funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm trying to come up with these kinds of things that are just like quick, snappy, easy to understand.
But have sting.
Yes. Yeah, so like I want them to be like, because if you say the phrase Democrats want sanctuaries for criminals but not for the Bill of Rights, I mean there's a very peculiar like subtext of humor. Does that kind of make sense a little bit? Like deep, like on an under level, it's phrased almost like a joke. And yet there is no punchline. It's actually just, no, this is really fucked up. So I kind of feel like
Right.
I'm trying to find a bridge between because I need to have an idea for how to make these kinds of things, because I want to have a template for templates. That sounds stupid, but I think you know what I mean. So that I can think about how to phrase these things, so that I can come up with more of these like quick, snappy, concise observations. One sentence, one and done. Get in, get out. So that I can just drop them into conversations. Like the, what is it? Despite being just 13% of the population. I love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But anyway, yeah, you're right. That basically, I think the correct model for how to generate talking points, or how to think about delivery of talking points, is one where humor takes a back seat. Like there can be some humor to it, there can be, but that's like those days
oh yeah, like
kind of are gone.
yeah, you can never take humor completely off the table, because like if you're having a really good conversation with somebody, like you've got time to talk to them, and you start going down this road, you can get really, really black pilly really fast. And you've gotta have some humor in there to ease that. But whenever it's just like you're just trying to drop something quick, yeah, no, like humor can be good, but there are some things that you don't want to trivialize or dismiss your own point.
Yeah.
You don't want them to think that this is just something to know that's kind of funny, but oh well, it's just funny. There's nothing we can really do about it. Let's just laugh about it and roll on. You don't want that mentality to set in.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think about, because there needs to be, like, in a weird way, oh gosh. Okay, so that's almost like its own other weird conversation. I was just going to say, I want to think about poses and tones to adopt, like a temperament that one would need to assume, so that one could kind of get away with saying just about anything. Like back when I was in my 20s, I used to go to like, I was a degenerate. It's just the way that it is. It's not a big deal. But anyway, I went to like a lot of parties, and I would just, go out and like chit chat and drink and have fun and joke around and whatever, the things that you do when you're 20. And I found that, and this is back when Steve Colbert had that show, The Daily Show or whatever.
The Colbert Report.
The Colbert Report, that's the one. And I used to like the guy back then. He was kind of funny. I never really watched his show, but his style of the way that he presented himself was kind of funny, like really bombastic.
The way that he made fun of Republicans by being one.
Yeah, and like, being intellectually myopic, he was almost a Chad, almost, if you think about it from a certain standpoint. And I kind of I adopted that, and I did that a lot, and it was amazing, the shit that I was able to get away with. It was stunning. And I kind of feel like that's kind of the direction that I want to go at the moment, except I want to de-emphasize humor. And I want to, I'm not sure what I want to emphasize. I just know that style, like, always move forward, eyes ahead, focus on the win, focus on what you're doing and nothing more. And everything and anything else is totally ancillary. If anyone says anything to you to try to distract or try to derail, you just don't worry about it. You just go right over it, and you don't worry about it. And when you're joking around and having fun, it's very, very easy to do that and make it look good-natured. As when you're talking about something that is serious, it can come off as really dismissive and really like it. it will push people away. So you have to be careful with that. I know this because I've done it. I've been a total asshole to some people. So I'm trying to think also about how. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I'm saying is that I think that tone, like how your mental, how your attitude, how you present. I don't like having to use that phrase, but I know you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. The thing is that
Yeah.
like that, there's not a uniform thing for that.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
that's a person by person thing. Like you've got to figure out, you as an individual need to figure out like how do you present your own personality in these like types of situations, because like it's that kind of thing is very nuanced and contextual, because it varies not only depending on what kind of a personality you have, but what kind of a personality the person you're talking to has.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're talking to a goth kid, be as dark as you freaking want. Like, be as black pilly as humanly possible, because they're they're into dark stuff. So be darker than they are, and that'll make them go, "Oh, that's pretty dark. That's brutal."
Yeah.
But like, if you're talking to Little Miss Sunshine, sometimes you might need to use some quick wit and humor, because you don't want to rain on her parade.
Yeah, I try to read the situation, whatever it may be, as much as I can, as best I can. Mixed results, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but yeah, that is what I try to do. It's a little bit easier for me because I'm older, so I've got a lot of life experience behind me. This is gonna sound really bad, but there are only so many personality types in the world, and you start to recognize them over time. You know exactly what you're dealing with. It sounds bad, but it's kind of the case. And as long as you can identify what kind of a person you're generally dealing with, you can more or less you can treat them appropriately. So,
Yeah, you're right, and I know what you mean by like that sounds bad, but it's just an observation. Not trying to. It seems like it trivializes or dismisses the quote unquote uniqueness of individual people, but that uniqueness isn't derived from personality type. That uniqueness is derived from experience.
yes, I actually think that is the case, in all honesty. So anyway, now that we've beaten that horse to death, I do want to come back to Virginia. So to put aside what we just talked about, and I don't know how much time you've got. Like, we just spent an hour banging on about that, so I do want to respect your time. Depending on how much time you have, I'm happy to go on for a little bit longer. But if you do have things,
I can maybe do another half hour.
Okay, cool. Anyway, yeah. All right. So yeah, I kind of want to know your thoughts on the Virginia situation. Like, if you know anything on the ground, clearly without mentioning who these people are. But like, if you happen to know anything, if you've heard like opinions and thoughts, if you know what the lay of the land, the energy on the street level is like, and also just general thoughts, I'm very curious to hear.
I don't have any like anything connected to what's going on like on the ground in Virginia, other than what I've been seeing in the news and what people have been saying on Twitter, and what I've gathered from my brother is really into those gun nut channels. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like all they do is talk about guns and taking apart guns and figuring
Nothing
out.
fancy, buddy. Nothing fancy.
Yeah. And they're very, very concerned. It's people are talking about like this might actually be something that sets the dumpster on fire. And I know that the like I know that the people where I'm from, like in the Ozark Mountains in Missouri, like I know that a lot of them are paying very close attention to this, and that's got like that's I don't know how every rural community in the country is, but uh, the prepper movement is a lot more popular amongst rural white Americans than I think a lot of people who live in cities realize. And like I know that people are scared, and me too. Like I'm concerned very heavily about like the state of Virginia because it's right next to our capital.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I remember thinking about how like there's a lot of think tank stuff right there. And if you think about all of those counties, because it's not like West Virginia, it's the same thing. Like there's a lot of people in a lot of those states. Like there's a guy in Pennsylvania that was talking like straight siege mask stuff, and I was like, oh my god, bro, settle down.
yeah, no, like the normies who don't understand, like they don't know what you are and are not allowed to say, so they just say what they're really thinking. And the normies are starting to go kind of like stormy on us. It's getting concerning. And like I'm just real like I'm kind of like freaked out by what they're saying because they're thinking that like Virginia is going to have its own version of Tiananmen Square soon. Because I've been hearing people say that like if the sheriff departments won't enforce the new gun laws that the state, to my understanding, they haven't passed them yet, or they're like just about to. If the police won't do it, they're gonna get the National Guard to do it.
Okay, now just so you know, the way that's okay. So what they wanted to do was ban everything, and anyone that had something was de facto a felon, which meant that it was technically possible to go door to door. Technically, okay, and everyone realized that and got super pissy about it. And Virginia, as far as I know, the way that I understand it, is they walked that back and they said, okay, go ahead and put all of your rifles away. We're not gonna take them. We're gonna grandfather in everything on the condition that you register it.
That's just as bad.
Yes, it is. Exactly.
Like
Because it
just as bad.
It kicks the can down the road.
Right.
Is all it does.
Yeah, that's all it does. And,
yeah.
And that's where like. Okay.
Okay, I just want to finish I want to finish the one thought. The one thought is simply that the National Guard need not be called in for that.
Yeah, the National Guard need not be called in for that. That's something where all they need to do is wait. Like they've got the water's heating up and the frog is in it. Just wait.
Yeah.
There's this thing that a guy told me a long time ago about this kind of thing and what to do to prepare for it. And he said, like, what you need to do is you need to go out and you need to get yourself a few rocks. And you take those rocks and you lay them out on a table and you take some pictures of them with a Polaroid camera. The kind that prints the picture out immediately. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Polaroid.
Yeah.
I'm an old man, dude. I had one of those.
All right. Yeah. You need to get one of those. Take a picture of these rocks, and hand deliver or snail mail that picture to people that need it. And then because those rocks are your markers. You take the firearms that you have that you're gonna need in the instance of a bug out situation, like zombie apocalypse type thing, and you keep those. But all of the rest of your guns and as much ammo as you can, grease them up, wrap them up, take them someplace that matters to you and the person or people you gave those pictures to. And I'm talking about like dad's secret fishing spot kind of places.
Yeah.
And you bury those guns and that ammo. And you put one of the rocks in that picture of those rocks that you took. You you took a picture of a bunch of rocks. One of those rocks, that's your marker for where they're buried.
That's funny because I was talking with a guy at a gun shop about a year ago, and I was asking him about all this stuff, and I was talking about, oh my god, dude, this is way back when, March for Our Lives was a big thing, right after the Florida shooting, David Hogg and those guys, and what's her face Gonzalez. And I was asking this guy, dude, like, what do you think about all of this firearms regulation shit that's being thrown around right now? And he was like, okay, the only guns we're going to have are going to be the ones that we bury. And at the time, I was like, that's fucking black-pilled, bro. And 1 year later... holy shit.
Yeah, and... see, I don't think that the urban liberal types really understand what rural communities in America are like. It's like, you don't want to upset these hillbillies, man. Like, it's historically, like, it's never worked out. I think it was one of the founding fathers, I can't remember which one, said that the steepest places will always be the bastions of liberty. And when he said that, he was referring to the fact that, like, the state has never really been able to impose itself in the hills and mountains, because, like, you can't really march armies there.
I have a copy of... oh, wait, no, I didn't look at the chat send. Sorry, buddy. I think... okay, whatever. Anyway, apparently I was saying something that was in line with the chat, but I have to go through and, like, actually read it to understand what was going on. Anyway, I've got a copy of the 4th Generation Warfare Handbook somewhere, and I gotta get that bad boy out. I gotta dust it off. I started reading it last year, and this was when I was in my sort of... Merry Christmas Blitz. This is when I was going through my sort of iron pill phase. You know, once you get red pilled, you get really upset.
Oh, yeah.
You know how it is. But now that I've gone all the way to where I am now, I'm like, okay, let's get real. Let's, all of your Dayglow memes aside, let's know.
See, I like what you just described. That's exactly where I'm at. And then all of a sudden, this Virginia thing happens, and
I know, it's so upsetting. Cause
like my mom gave me a bug out bag.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude,
My
I'm
mom.
a fucking blue-pilled normie. I'm a goddamn cock, and I now have a fucking ammo canister. Are you kidding me? What the fuck happened, man?
I know. What? It's. Oh, and yeah, like, and I told you in private convo about how like the church my grandma goes to, the the deacons double as armed guards for the church. Like,
I want to be a deacon.
and I found out that not only not only is that the case, but this is this is considered normal now. I found that out from my mom because like the church my grandma goes to, that's up in the Ozark Mountains, Missouri. Like, uh, but my mom lives here in Georgia, and like there's like a network, a social network of churchgoers, and they're plugged into it, and it's normal now for churches to have people there armed and ready because of all of the like people who shot up churches.
Good.
And yeah, I mean it's good, but at the same time it's like, wow, like what does it say about us that we live in a society where people feel the need to have armed guards at church?
Well, we moved to low trust. So, I mean, for example...
Low trust. That's another good one that you could work into a zippy one line.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I should write that one down. I'm going to come up with like a... Because I want to have... I really do. I want to... Maybe I'll come up with a PDF.
Yeah, the demographics are shifting us into a low trust society.
Yeah, I just want to have like quick talking points. That's really about it. Just like single sentences, throw it out there. I'm gonna make a PDF about this, and I'll find a way to like disseminate it. I'll just like give it to people or whatever.
And, oh yeah, like send it to me. I'll DM it to people.
Yeah, because I just want it out there. I'll work with you on it because I'd like to get your input. I want to have eyes on this because like this is not about me. I don't want fucking credit. I don't really give a shit. This information has to get out, so I'll give you a copy, tell me what you think, and then we'll throw it out there. So but anyway, yeah, like what your question, rhetorical question, what does that say about us? As far as I'm concerned, it's just the sign of the times. I'm born, bred, and raised in Los Angeles. I'm a Los Angelino through and through, okay? You don't know the topography here, you don't know the geography, so whatever, but I was born in East LA. I was born by the Dodger Stadium, basically. So I'm a Los Angelino, like proper, okay? And way back in like the 80s, I used to just walk around, no problem, at night, 3 in the morning, no issues. All the way into the early 2000s, I was able to take a walk at 3 in the morning with headphones on, not concerned at all with my whereabouts or who is around me. At 3 in the morning, unarmed. Now I don't like going outside after dark. That's where we are. That's what happened to Los Angeles. So when you talk about that stuff, I get it.
It's just so crazy to think about, and I just can't. I feel like the left is afraid that we're like onto them. Like I think that they're concerned with the Groyper movement that's like getting our talking points into the more center right circles, and I think that they're worried, and I think that that's why they're kind of like putting their foot on the gas here. I mean, with impeachment and the sanctuary cities and the gun grabbing in Virginia and illegals getting driver's licenses, it feels like there's a lot going on, and Trump isn't talking about anything except the impeachment bit. And
Yeah.
like, here's the thing, like, me trying not to be black-pilled, I'm really just, like, fingers crossed, praying to whoever's listening, like, that when Trump gets reelected and then no longer having to worry about getting reelected and having a Republican controlled Congress and a Republican controlled Senate and a Republican Supreme Court, and many of the new Republican congressmen would be new Republicans, people that are more likely to be plugged into our line of thinking.
Yeah.
I think maybe then he'll like just be off the chain, and then we'll like it, like as that is to say, the hounds will be off the chain, and we'll finally get our wall, and we'll get all this other stuff. Like, I'm hoping for that, but it's hard to talk myself into hoping for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I've decided that the empire is dead. The schism already happened. The what is it? The legitimacy crisis has come and gone. Just stop and think about California. California openly goes against federal immigration law. So that alone should tell you quite a lot. California is openly anti-Second Amendment. That should tell you a lot. And then you've got the state fighting the federal level here in California. In Virginia, you've got the county level fighting the state level. I thought this was going to be the case way back in early 2019, and lo, this is exactly where we are. The crisis is hit. It's already over. The way that I'm thinking about it now is the zombie America, the administrative body, the administrative functions, they're still going to exist, and the machinations will grind on for as long as people still believe in them. But that's going to come to an end. We need to prepare for that.
I'm reminded of Jordan Peterson talking about how we live in the corpse of our dead father. Like, have you ever heard Jordan Peterson speak about, like, Osiris and Horus?
I went through a little Jordan Peterson fan, but then I realized that he's kind of full of crap, so I just stopped caring after like a couple of months.
He's got some good things to say, but yeah, no, like, I'd love to debate him, but I don't think that will ever happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what you were saying kind of reminded me of that. And like, no disrespect, dude. Like, I get that, you know, you're a born and bred Californian, but I feel like California at this point is well, it's I think it might just straight up be lost. And if there was a national referendum to kick California out of the union, I'd vote to do it.
I would vote to do it, and I say that as a Californian.
And oh my god, Texas is probably going to turn blue in 2024. And
I still think it's going to be... Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You said 2024. Yeah. Some people are saying it might turn blue in 2020.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
That would be very bad.
I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I'm still going to gamble on 2024.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 2024. If it turns blue in 2020, like, oh man.
Yeah, I'm for the moment, I'm trying to think about it in terms of, because I'm going to do just a little bit of self-posting for a moment. I'm not from a narcissistic standpoint, but just that for anyone that might be in a situation kind of similar to, like, some of the people in chat might know people that are in my situation. You might know some people that are in a situation like mine. I want to get the hell out. And I think that any city people, they need to find places to be, and they need to do it relatively soon. And the reason for that actually is because I was thinking about it. If I went out to some other portion of the country, they would look at me and be like, "You're a Californian," and I would have no choice but to say yeah, and they'd be like, "Get out." So you got to build bridges, bro. You know, like whoever this person is, this hypothetical person that wants to get out, figure out where you're going to go so that you can earn trust. That's actually key.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that we've become such a low trust society. It's like I remember being a kid and just like going out with a bunch of other kids and riding bikes around town, just like completely unsupervised, going places for no reason. And now it's common knowledge that it's crazy to let your kids do that.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be a big year.
I'm starting to think it's going to be a watershed year. Sin in the chat, I don't think you can see the chat, but in the chat, one of the regulars, Sin, he was saying, I don't know, buddy, things might be a little closer than 2024. I was saying 2030, like earlier this year, and I still think that they do have an event planned for 2030. So about a decade from now, I think that's what I do actually think that's a real plan. I do think 2030 is a calendar year, a real red letter year. But
So like,
I don't know, man. 2020 is looking pretty intense.
Yeah, what we need to happen, what we absolutely need to happen, we need Trump to get elected in 2020, and we need to hammer him on repealing birthright citizenship. If we repeal birthright citizenship, we need revocation. Like, we need to be able to revoke. I mean, obviously, you know, there should be I feel like there should be some exemptions, like certain groups that were forced to come here out of like escaping communism and stuff like that, like the Cubans, for example, but who vote in much higher numbers for conservative parties anyway, so but yeah, repeal birthright citizenship and have citizenship revocation. Like, you're not a citizen because your parents were illegal immigrants. You are not a citizen. You need at least one or more parent to be a citizen in order to be a citizen. So like if we can get rid of that, and we can reverse the immigration tide, because like if we repeal birthright citizenship, then that's a huge chunk of those demographic replacement votes that the Democrats smuggled in. That's a huge chunk of them gone. All right, and that pushes back the tide of Texas turning blue. And then we need to start working on repatriation. And this is something I talked about in my slideshow presentation. Where it's like, cut the welfare for all non-citizens. Like, you're not a citizen, you can't access any welfare programs anymore on like state or federal levels. And then once that money supply is cut, I'm sure that many, if not most of them, would be happy to sign up for a voluntary repatriation program where we cut you a check to help you land comfortably when you get back to your homeland. And that'll cost money.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. That's not happening. I don't see that happening at all. The way that I'm looking at everything now is, and this is going to be really unpleasant, but like, that's number one, that's not going to happen. Number two, the Byzantine split has already occurred. Number three, I think that what we're going to be looking at is city-states like polises and surrounding, like basically Hunger Games, where you've got a city that controls a region and then the region is subservient to the city. I think we're moving back to we're going to see a version of feudalism, one that economists have called neo-feudalism. I think that's where we're going.
If we break down that hard, I think that what's likely to happen is the Chinese will invade us.
They might. I mean, the only thing that they would want is the resources, thank God, but like, that's the only reason that they would invade us would only be for resources, and that would be it. So we can actually repel them. I mean, they don't need this place. The Chinese are pretty insular, so I don't really see that happening. Like, they're going after Africa, but they're only going after Africa because they want the resources, and that's it.
Yeah, and Africa's like untapped.
Yeah. So, it doesn't seem like they're trying to set up China 2.0 over there. They're just like, no, we just want this shit. I mean, will they stay? I have no idea. I really don't know.
What do you think's going to happen to Europe if America falls?
NATO falls apart, and then there's no one to defend Europe at all. Europeans have to start defending themselves, and then shit gets cray. Right, cray.
Yeah, I think they'll immediately run to the loving arms of Russia.
What choice do they have?
Russia, defend us.
Yeah,
Say what?
They don't have any choice.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going to happen, in my own opinion, is because I think that I think the zombie thing is going to happen. Zombie America. I mean, the infrastructure will continue to exist. People will still keep paying taxes. They'll still keep celebrating 4th of July and all this good stuff. But it's going to mean less and less and less as the population
the Republic
shifts.
Is dead.
Yeah. And then somewhere around 2045, it basically just collapses internally, totally, because of demographics.
See, like, historically speaking, normally when this happens, a character comparable to Caesar arrives.
Yeah. I think that's probably going to happen. I don't know who the guy is, but it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, like, I mean, there were some plays that, there was a play in 2017 that depicted, it was done in New York, and it was basically the Shakespearean Caesar, but the guy playing Caesar was dressed as Trump. But I don't think that Trump is that figure.
No, not at all.
But man, I don't know, like, history repeats itself, but not in the exact same way. So maybe we don't get a Caesar this time.
I think we will. It's just a matter of, who, when. I'm looking at everything right now, just in terms of setting myself up to ride the wave. As long as I can ride the wave, I'm fine. If I manage to wife up and have kids or whatever, so long as I can set up a situation in which they are likely to be fine, then it's not too bad. They will probably have a rough go, probably, but they'll survive if I can just get to the right spot. Trick is where. That's the trick. Where.
There have been a couple of people that have DM'd me on Twitter talking about, like, homesteading and farmers markets and stuff. And I think that that's something that our people need to start paying a lot more attention to.
Totally
I've also started looking into credit unions.
Okay, so I think Heinrich up in in the chat was talking about money, and I actually totally concur. I think we're going to need to think about banking hardcore.
We need to do that. I think that forming a credit union, like, I'm looking into it. I've started asking people about it.
How to get assassinated in one easy step.
Well, like, I mean, there's worse things than dying.
Yeah, I completely agree. But anyway, okay.
I'm sorry, that was like a remarkably black-pilled statement.
Yeah.
Smile and wave, boys.
No,
Smile and wave.
it's okay. It's okay. I kind of don't want to, because I have to go and do a couple of things before I finish out the rest of my evening, and we're at like an hour and a half. So I do want to respect your time, because I know you actually do have a life. So I kind of want to get ready to wrap things up, but I'd like to end it on something a little bit more positive or bright, if possible. I'm gonna go back to this whole thing of guerrilla rhetoric and Operation White Noise. Just meme the shit out of demographics, and it's not a save. It's not a solution. It's not gonna make the world be full of puppies and kitties, but by getting people aware of it, like, in a way, you can almost think of it like a wound. You can either treat the wound, or you can decide to not treat the wound. The sooner we treat the wound, the better. So I'm looking at this from the standpoint of, we just have to get people on board with acknowledging that there is a wound, and that's the way that I'm thinking about it. So Operation White Noise, I'm gonna keep working on that and see if I can get a nice little PDF going.
Oh yeah, dude, that's like really important. We just need people to acknowledge the fact that demographics are a thing that have an effect. Like,
yeah,
that's really, like, you need to be able to acknowledge the problem in order to address it.
yeah.
And the only issue is with people calling you racist. Just
Yeah.
ignore that.
I'm also, by the way, I'm completely on board with Big Cat Kayla that a world full of puppies and kitties does sound pretty awesome. But yeah, I think just getting people to acknowledge it, that's going to be the next big deal. So once we do that,
this Virginia thing is going to make it a lot easier to get people to acknowledge that.
I think so, yeah. I really think that's the case. So just for everyone in chat, let's see here, we've got oh nice, we've got like two dozen people plus a bunch of feds. So everyone say something nice about your fed. And yeah, so all 24 people that are here, firstly, thank you all for popping by. Secondly, see if you could just inject the word demographics into something. You don't have to try to red pill people, don't try to convince anyone, just drop it in, get out. And then through accumulation alone, the concept will bubble out. And the concept is not just, racially aware, it's not this, it's not that, it's demographics. It's proportionality. One demographic relative to another demographic. That's why demographics. So it's throwing it out there. It's good. I think it's a good idea. So anyway, before I close out, Charles, firstly, thank you very much for popping by. I love talking with you, so thank you very much for popping by. And
Yeah, man, always a
also,
pleasure.
yeah, for sure, man. And is there anything that you wanted to leave us with? Were there any ideas or anything you wanted to plug or something?
Not particularly, other than just be safe, guys, and have a savings account that exists in something other than money, like food, like dry storage food, ammunition, useful things that are easy to trade.
And if you're going to go in that direction, yeah, just as Charles was saying earlier, make sure you get some oil on that bad boy.
Yeah, it's no use to anybody if it's a rusted hunk of junk.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, all right, closing her out. Charles, if you wanna stay on for just like a minute after, that's cool. If not, that's fine too. But at any rate, thanks again for popping by. Seriously. To everyone else, I don't think that I'm going to play an album or anything. I think what I'll end up doing is just I'm not gonna I'm just gonna close out. That's it. That's the whole deal. Okay, guys. I'll see everyone around probably in like an hour and a half, but whatevs. Anyway, all right, guys. Cheers.